Now at 6, we continue to follow a deadly shooting at the Diamond Walmart on Old Seward Highway. Anchorage police say a routine retail theft call took a sharp turn and ended in a suspect being killed, 2 officers being shot. One of them had to be hospitalized. We have team coverage on this developing story, including reactions from a city leader and many of you. But we start with Johnson Kuhn, who what we learned from police today as that Walmart location has finally reopened tonight.
That's right, Tracy. Police say Walmart loss prevention had a suspect detained in back office late last night, but when officers moved in to arrest them, the situation changed in an instant. Dispatch got the call from the Diamond Walmart around 10:03 p.m. reporting that retail theft suspect was in custody. Officers arrived and waited for backup before 3 patrol officers went into the loss prevention office. Investigators say as officers tried to handcuff the suspect to search and take them into custody, the suspect tried to run. And in the small closed space, everyone went to the ground. Police say the suspect then pulled out a concealed handgun and fired, hitting 1 officer twice in the lower body. Police say another officer was also hit in the chest, but that round was stopped by a ballistic plate. The officer who was hit then in the chest then returned fire and ultimately killed the suspect. A 3rd officer was also hit during all of this, but not shot, and the shooting was said to have been contained inside the loss prevention office, and no Walmart employees or customers were hurt. One of the officers who was shot remains in the hospital in stable condition, and as we learned earlier, the Walmart was closed for much of the day, but eventually reopened.
You know, we've talked about retail theft, and we're not going to give up on retail theft. We've talked about how retail theft is linked to other crimes, to include violent crimes. That we have individuals that are violent actors that also commit retail theft. I think last night was a perfect example. We're not going to let up on violent crime.
And police reiterate this information is preliminary as they continue reviewing body camera video and security footage. They also say that none of the 3 officers involved have been interviewed yet due to injuries. A second briefing is expected once more details are confirmed. Tracy?
And the shooting sent shockwaves across the area, even caught the attention of city leaders. Alaska's News Source talked with Anchorage Assembly member Zach Johnson, who has a background in law enforcement, about the shooting. Despite the task force launched by Mayor Suzanne LaFrance to combat retail thefts, Johnson says officers must be ready in case something escalates, no matter the situation.
You can be the most well-trained, well-prepared officer in the world and still get hurt, unfortunately. That is just the position you're in because you are having to react to, the actions of somebody else. It's horrifying to know that a couple of our officers got hurt. Sounds like in the moment they did react incredibly quickly.
Mayor LaFrance also released a statement reading in part, while the underlying call for service was related to shoplifting, the escalation to violence underscores exactly why public safety remains our highest priority and why we are equipping our officers with the technology, training, and resources necessary to face unpredictable situations safely. Mayor LaFrance also says the efforts to fight retail theft have been seeing momentum since the task force launched last September. She says nearly 500 cases have been investigated, along with 267 arrests and warrants. LaFrance says 241 cases have been prosecuted, linked to about $188,000 in loss. And our Lauren Maxwell talked to some of you about the theft that led to the Walmart shooting, about how you feel about the city's safety. Here's what she gathered.
Well, this is a shocking crime. 2 police officers shot, a 3rd injured, and a suspect dead, all in a place where thousands of people shop every day. The Southside Walmart was closed on Wednesday as security guards turned lines of would-be shoppers away. Most of the people we spoke with hadn't heard about the shooting.
I'm shocked.
Including a woman who works right across the street and who says crime is getting worse.
Well, I don't feel as safe as I used to, put it that way.
One man told us,
I don't think any area of town's safe anymore.
He says he doesn't always feel comfortable shopping in Anchorage.
It's just not safe to go to some of the big box stores anymore.
But 2 other men say they think the problem comes from being soft on crime.
These guys are coming in here stealing stuff and walking away, and it's like, we need to do some justice reform somehow.
There's crimes out there right now you see in the news all the time where they're letting the guy go. No, he had a gun. scared somebody or shot somebody, oh, we'll let them go. They got to stop that. Law is the law and just abide by the law.
Now, to be fair, Anchorage police have put a big emphasis on trying to stop retail theft, and the city is also working with state prosecutors to try to put more of those offenders behind bars. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
And we're now more than halfway through the work week, and the holiday weekend is just around the corner. Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry is tracking that extended forecast closely. And Melissa, how's it shaping up for people planning to be outdoors?
Actually, pretty nicely. If you've been enjoying the weather recently, you're going to enjoy it all the way into that holiday weekend. But temperatures are going to get warmer from now all the way through Friday. You can see temperatures pretty comfortable in Anchorage at 61, 65 in Palmer, up to 70 in Fairbanks and 59 in Ketchikan. But I do expect these temperatures to warm about 10 degrees just over the next 48 hours. The other thing I'm watching very closely are these thunderstorms. They are firing up across the higher elevations, mainly here across the state, from the Alaska Range out west to the western interior and across the Copper River Basin. And you can see about a dozen lightning strikes there just in the last hour. Those storms really confined near Glen Allen, right along the Richardson and Glen highways, but slowly making their way west. We will see chances for those thunderstorms developing throughout the Matanuska Valley tonight. So be mindful of that if you do have plans to be outdoors tonight. Now tomorrow, mostly sunny. You can see from Anchorage to Fairbanks and to Juneau. Highs will be back close to 70 in Anchorage, mid 70s in Fairbanks, low 60s in Juneau, and then a little bit more cloud cover for those of you in the southwest corner of the state with highs in the upper 50s. As we get into the weekend, there'll be additional chances for thunderstorms and also eventually some clouds rolling back in. And I'll have a closer look at those details here in a few minutes.
The state of Alaska continues to pursue murder charges against a U.S. Army man accused of killing his wife. And a warning to our viewers, this story does discuss suicide.
The manner of death that I certified was as a homicide.
That's the cause of death. The state medical examiner testified today for 21-year-old specialist Saria Hildebrand, who was serving in the Alaska National Guard. Her husband, 23-year-old Zarius Hildebrand, seemingly showed no emotions today in court. The state claims he shot and killed his wife on August 6, 2023. Evidence shown today in court included autopsy photos showing how Saria died from a gunshot wound to her forehead. State witnesses claim it was done from a distance of 2.5 feet or closer. The defense pushed back against the state's witness today, claiming Saria shot herself. They say Saria had no defensive wounds, and the medical examiner did not test fire a gun to simulate the fatal gunshot.
Unlikely.
In this particular case, it's intermediate range, and it's fairly broad across her forehead to her left side of her ear area. That whole area around that is a pretty broad pattern of stippling. And to determine the distance of that particular weapon and that ammunition to create that pattern is best determined in the crime lab through a firearms expert testing that weapon and that ammunition.
On Tuesday, detectives testified due to the blood splatter at the crime scene that Saria's body was likely moved after being shot. The medical examiner testified today the placement of the gunshot would have killed Saria immediately. The defense disputes these claims, saying nobody else was in the room when the gun was fired. If you or a loved one needs someone to talk to, you can call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 or text the crisis text line by texting HELLO to 741-741. The Arctic comes with many challenges, including how service members have to respond to medical emergencies. Georgina Fernandez tells us how a conference on Base this month is easing the learning curve in this week's Northern Front.
Just from that sound, you can feel the bone-chilling cold.
It is brutal.
Frigid temperatures of the last frontier.
Just imagine when you step out of your front door in the morning and you have that first cold wind hit your face and maybe your nostrils stick together a little bit and you lose your breath. We are running operations in that.
The Arctic. It's a different playing field.
This is probably one of the most unique duty stations that I've been to in my 20-year-plus career.
And one that has become more prevalent as tension rises in the Arctic, making it a focal point for security.
We exist in an environment that has been poorly studied for a long time.
Give me exhale, exhale, exhale.
especially when it comes to how the cold impacts emergency medicine.
It's something that we recognize that we have some gaps in that we're trying to address, especially as we try to give high quality care to people here in Alaska.
JBER working on filling that gap this month as it hosts the Below Zero Medicine Conference.
Either an obvious diagnosis of frostbite or they're not appropriate because of their initial presentation.
That is centered around discussing innovations and challenges when it comes to working in the region.
The equipment we use to treat our freezing injuries is all off-the-shelf stuff. We get a Home Depot bucket.
Because when the cold is part of the equation, you got to think different.
It affects the dexterity. A lot of what we do as far as our assessments require either tactile touch or more fine motor movements, like if you're twisting like a tourniquet to stop bleeding, it becomes harder to do that.
During the conference, presenters shared their past experiences and successes they've had in cold environments.
Important to me because I feel like everybody has a stake in the mission here.
Because when it comes to Arctic security, every role matters. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.